Well, I got to tell you that I'm fairly confident that we'll hit the 30-minute mark today.
Okay.
Especially if it's only two of us. So I keep trying to get closer to the 30-minute mark, and it's just so difficult. But
I'll try to help you.
it'll be cool. I'm sure we can do it today. But yeah, I'm already sweating. I just closed the window, and I can already feel the heat. I'm on the third floor of a building, so I get all the heat from downstairs.
It's on here too. Actually, it's getting without the wind. Yeah, I've got windows open, but the patio door is not in, and it's gotten hotter.
Yeah. But you know, those cold winter days, you can't really complain about the summer. Okay, 6:58. Okay, we'll wait 2 minutes, and we'll start Willpower. I wanted to mention. There was one aspect of what she talked about. There's a video I posted on the Facebook page about willpower, and she talks about one aspect that I never really. I mean, I thought about it on my own personal level relative to me, but I never considered it to be something to tell other people. So I'm going to test it out here today, and we'll see how that goes. Because it almost sounds, well, it certainly sounds counterintuitive. It sounds like a bad idea, but she says it's very good, and I'm very interested in talking about that. See how that goes. Okay. How's your week been?
Good. Yeah, I think quieter than the other weeks, but and some intense moments. I had a funeral on Saturday, so for my friend that died back in February. It was beautiful and but surprising because I really thought I was totally fine, fool that I was, and I cried like a baby. So it was just. It was good. It was good. It was healing, and it was made me realize some stuff. So that was good. Well, how about you?
It's been up and down all week. Yeah, emotionally, and when it came to work and sleepless nights. But
Sleepless nights. You usually don't sleep much.
yeah, but two nights this week, 2 or 3 nights this week, I went to bed at 8 a.m.
Okay.
And then slept for about 3-4 hours, and then woke up to work again. I was really trying to get something done, and just I was hitting wall after wall and problem after problem. I like those things. I like hitting challenges and problems. I like having obstacles to overcome because it teaches me. But when there's a deadline, then that's where it can be very sort of stressful. I don't miss sleep. Like I don't stay awake until 8 and go, oh, I'm missing out on sleep. I'm still thinking I got to get this work done. And in fact, I even consider not sleeping at all. Just altogether. And that's what I used to do. But now that I do other things, hold meetups in person, you can't just be a zombie when you go out to talk to people. So
come on, you'd like to be a zombie. You like it.
No, I don't want to be a zombie. That's my whole thing. I want to fight against the zombies. But sometimes I wonder what it must be like to be a zombie, because to us it looks like brains, they're just coming after you. Yeah. But what if it's like the most amazing thing to them? What if they get brains and they eat people and it just tastes absolutely delicious? We don't know what the zombie experience is like.
That's right. Nobody knows.
It could be an amazing thing.
Maybe it is.
Okay.
Only you would wonder about that.
Oh, I'm not the only one. Well, it's actually a very geek thing. The tech community, they really love zombies. My brother, he just came back from Toronto at this big conference, and the amount of tech guys who were talking about The Walking Dead or zombies in their talk, like part of what they were saying as examples or whatever it is very interesting. I think it's very appealing to the tech community, which is why I feel like it falls flat when I mention it, because everyone that I usually talk to, they're familiar with the show and the zombies, and everybody else is sort of like, you watch Game of Thrones?
I know there's a whole I don't know if it's underculture, or I don't know how you call it, but I know there's a whole lot of that. I've seen shows on that, and it's I think it's funny, it's entertaining, it makes me laugh. But I mean, not because I think it's ridiculous. Well, yes and no, but I think it's great for the imagination, as you were saying,
Right.
I mean, do you know anybody that just really takes it seriously, or
Um,
I think everybody just smiles usually when you talk about it.
That's right. I don't know anybody in our group who takes it seriously. I mean, there are some people in our group who are leaders in their own group, and so they're not so much a part of ours, and they are like there are people that I can talk to who are like that. But in Montreal, there's actually a zombie day where people dress up as zombies and they have like a parade. They're like zombie. They go on
Yeah.
the street like zombies, and they dress up, makeup, all that stuff. It's really crazy. So. Um, it is popular, and there is a sort of underground occult sort of following for things like that, and it's been resurging. But even the American government has a strategic defense plan in case zombies occur. Like it's what's crazy about it. Unlike vampires or werewolves or whatever it is, zombies are actually a fairly plausible scenario.
Okay.
Maybe not the rising from the dead part, but the being infected with a virus that causes you to want to eat people. Like there are situations like that happen. There was people who were taking a drug called bath salts, and they were losing their minds, going in rage, and actually biting and chewing on people. There are news articles about that, and so anything can happen. A rabies virus can mutate, and then suddenly rabid people are out trying to eat
Yeah.
people. And the government has a defense plan against that. They have something just in case. So
Huh.
I'm of the clan that believes, it's far more relevant than people think. But I'm whatever. I have a sword just in case the zombie apocalypse starts. I got a sword right there, and I'm gonna use it.
No, the only thing I know about zombies actually is I watch a show regularly because I love it. It's Castle, and they had one episode with zombies in it, and they explained about a drug and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, you had people doing it at night, like doing zombie walks in New York City, and so it was it was good. It was funny, but it was good. It was really
Right. It's
and
strange. I love seeing people just doing what they want to do because they're interested in it, because they're passionate in it, even if it's something that other people might find completely ridiculous. That's part of why I love, Comic-Con, the whole fantasy series. But I went to a church meeting. It was a youth group. They were meeting. They were talking about, how to deal with suffering. And going there and seeing them, I mean, I'm not interested in joining a church, but I'm very interested in seeing people following what they love, even if other people might consider their religion or their hobbies ridiculous. There's something about it that's very, very interesting to me.
hmm
So I got a message from Sam. She says, "Stop talking about zombies and start the show."
All right,
I'm gonna
all
take,
right, Sam.
I'm going to take her advice. I do have a question, just very quickly. Do you ever watch Game of Thrones?
I did watch the first season and I believe part of the second, but at some point it got to be too much for me. It was too violent. Like when the very young guy was the king, he was so cruel. I just couldn't take it anymore.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's one of those
Much for
things.
me.
Yeah. Okay, well, I was just wondering because I'm thinking about changing my example from The Walking Dead to Game of Thrones. But anyway, I'll start the show. We can talk about that some other time.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Peter Hartman. You're watching The Appreciationist. Thank you very much for joining me. Tonight's show we'll be talking about willpower, everything to do with willpower. We also have a wonderful, great idea, an app that you can download, so please wait for that in the show. Before we go any further, let's introduce the people in the room. We have our lovely friend. Who is
Hi,
this?
I'm Val. Happy to be here, like every Wednesday. Peter, seeing him, even though he doesn't see me.
That's right. Well, I imagine you, and I'm really glad that you're here. It's really a lot of fun to have you here. If there's one person who's going to be in the room, let it be Valerie. And hopefully you're interested in this topic here today, willpower. What do you think about it? Something you're interested in?
Yeah. Yeah, actually, I'm glad that you chose that topic. I'm interested to see what you have to say about it. And learning something new. Maybe I'll change my mind on it, or I don't know. Like, I have a little bit of an opinion about it, but we'll see.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, I have one thing that might change your mind about something. It sort of changed my mind. I have to do more research about it because it feels a little iffy. But there's something new to come from this conversation here today, so I'm really looking forward to it. But we're going to try and keep the show to 30 minutes, like we always do, and I'm pretty sure we'll hit the mark here today. So before we go any further, the most important thing that we do in the show is a moment of appreciation. It's a segment called a moment of appreciation where we look back the past few days, the past week or so, and we pick out things that we can appreciate, something that maybe you appreciated in the moment, or something that you can look back on now and find appreciation for. You see, the most the most important thing that we do is not only to recognize the good qualities of a person or a thing, but to choose to draw enjoyment from it. That physical response that you get from recalling those events, cement them and make them more a part of who you are. And so that's the exercise we're engaged in here today. So Val, I don't know if you feel like in a moment of appreciation, do you think you have one?
Yeah, it's probably two or three, but all wrapped up in one in a way. It's very simple. I've been enjoying the weather tremendously. I had a funeral this weekend, and we were expecting rain on Saturday, and it didn't rain. And first, so that was a blessing. That was really, really beautiful, especially where we were. It was on top of a mountain. The view was absolutely exquisite, and so it was. It was beautiful, and I enjoyed my time over there, and I went on walks with friends, and I just took it in. Like I mean, the trees, the different greens everywhere. It was just gorgeous, and it wasn't too hot. It was, I loved it. Really, like, almost, I was, every cell of my body was like being nourished by all of the beauty, and then the, I don't know, like the warm air, you know, nothing can hurt you. It's like the perfect weather. And this afternoon, where I sit at my desk, I have my patio door, which it's a brand new patio door. And last year, I have great landlords and landladies actually that changed it, and it opens a different way than it used to. But now it opens exactly where my chair is. So with this kind of weather, with the patio door open, it's perfect. I have a nice breeze coming through, and it's just this afternoon I was like, oh, this is just perfect. So that's it. Very simple.
Very cool. Well, simple is good. You see, that's the point, right?
Yep.
In fact, I find drawing satisfaction or enjoyment from the little things is even more valuable, because you don't always have a big thing to point to it in terms of appreciation, but I bet you always have something small that you can appreciate.
Yes.
And so that's very good. Sitting down by the patio door at your desk, feeling the warm breeze. I know I was sitting on the balcony, and with Sam, we went for a picnic. That was a lot of fun. And nourishment is really an excellent word, right? It's not just sort of this airy-fairy, oh, I'm enjoying it. You actually feel like you're being bolstered. You feel like you're drawing sustenance from this environment, and I believe you are. People might describe that as the energy that you're absorbing. People might describe that to, you know, various things. But whatever it's called, it makes you feel better, and it carries you forward. So, very good. Thank you very much for sharing that with us, Dolly.
No problem.
My moment of appreciation, so I mentioned a picnic with Sam, sitting out on the balcony. Those were wonderful times. I just went to dinner with extended family, my brother's girlfriend and her kids, and it was the first time. I think it was the first time I sat with them, and just was able to learn more about them, find out more about them, talk to the kids, talk to the family. Had a lot of fun talking to the kids. I just can't help but like ask questions, pose questions, and things like that. I mentioned we had this one conversation where I asked the 9-year-old, let me not get her age wrong, the 9-year-old, if you went to Mars and there were Martians there were aliens there, Martians, and if you went there, would you be the alien or would they be alien? And she said, they would be the aliens. And I said, well, hang on a second. If you're on Earth and beings come to the planet Earth, they're the aliens because this is your home, right? I said, well, if you go to Mars and there are aliens there and that's their home, then you're the alien.
Why did she take that?
Her eyes went wide, and she just thought about it for a second. Yeah, and it's actually I very much like to talk to kids, because you can sort of pose these questions and cause them to think about things in a way that they might not have otherwise. And if you can house it in something interesting like aliens or, I don't know, zombies or whatever, then you can actually pique their interest. So it was a lot of fun to sort of exercise that, be around other people, see my brother's lovely lady and her family, and eat pasta carbonara. It was really good. So it was a really fun time.
Good. Well, I find talking to kids is always wonderful. Actually, it's like, okay, well, you ask them questions, and then it's like they remind you of how we're supposed to think. That's the way I see it. It's like they have the wisdom a lot of the time.
That's right.
Or they just, I don't know, they have a twist on it, which is not a twist. I think we're the twisted ones, but it's just it makes me laugh every time. It's like, oh yeah, I didn't think of it that way, or I forgot, you know. So I think it's always great.
Yeah, that fresh perspective. I got a video. The mother sent me a little 5-second video of the 4-year-old, 3-year-old, and she just sent me a video saying that she loved me. She met me once, and she loves me. It was really sort of heartwarming. I'm going to keep the video on my phone for as long as possible because I really feel good.
That's precious.
Okay, so today we're talking about willpower, but like I said, the best part of the show is that we do a moment of appreciation, but the second best, I really think, is the joke of the week. Okay?
Yeah, well, you had me scared for a minute. I was like, don't tell me he's forgotten about the joke of the week.
No, I can't forget about that. I can't forget about the joke of the week. Okay, but I did forget something. I forgot to write it on a piece of paper here. I have Liberty here, and the other one is...
That's okay. You don't have to write that. You know, just tell me. People can hear it.
Okay. Well, I sort of like putting up the sign, so I'm just going to write. Just going to do. So you sent me, Val. You sent me an email with some wonderful suggestions, and it took me.
Yeah, I thought, you know, since I do work kind of with those words every day, trying to feel better, trying to connect to really positive feelings and all that kind of stuff, and I said, well, maybe I should send some to Peter in case he wants to use them or if he runs out of ideas at some point. So
hey, I was really glad to have them here today. You know, joy is what I picked.
Yeah, one of my and the other one is, I said, that's one of my favorite.
Yeah, I was actually feeling like picking it, and because you suggested it, I was like, okay, I'm going to go with it. And the other one.
Yeah, you've got the joke there. Okay.
Oh, you have the joke for a second. Yeah, some people are going to pause the video and try to get that joke. I wonder if you'll be able to read it. Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Let's go with Liberty.
Liberty. So Liberty has been here for, I think, this is the 3rd week, and now it's been chosen. If you want to know what the joy joke is, please tune in next Wednesday, 7 p.m. Okay, Liberty. Okay, well, this is interesting considering what we just talked about, but how does NASA organize their company parties? They plan it.
Sorry?
They plan it.
That's a good one.
How does NASA organize their company parties? They plan it. That was a lot of fun. That's a geeky joke. I chose it because I liked it. You know.
I like it too, and I think it's really cute.
Wonderful. If you want to submit a joke of the week or you want to pick a word for the joke of the week, please feel free to check us out. You can find us on thelawofattraction.ca or happyforachange.com. If you're in the Montreal area, meetup.com/TLOA&TL. You can write your little messages there. But today we're talking about willpower. It's a topic that I really like. I have a little tidbit that I want to give you. Maybe I should do it after the willpower section. Yeah, we'll do it afterwards. Willpower. So if you're looking on our Facebook page, facebook.com/lawofattractionmontreal, there's a video there by Kelly McGarknagle. She gives this talk at the Google Center, and she talks about willpower. She wrote this book, and then she gave this talk, and she really describes a wonderful way of viewing willpower and how to get it done, how to use it. And what I love most about the video is that it paralleled a lot of what I say. She has the research to back it up. If you're data-driven, if you're interested in statistics and information, check out the video and you can really see how what we're saying applies to real life. I won't spoil the stories that she says, so I won't be quoting her. But willpower, essentially, what do you think, Valerie? What do you think is a good way to increase your willpower? What would you say?
A good way to increase your willpower.
Yeah, to make it stronger, to increase it, to get more of it. If you're having a challenge, if you're dealing with something and you require more willpower, how do you go about making that happen?
I think you would have to find a really good source of inspiration or motivation, because but see, for me, the way I see willpower, or what I've heard about it, is that, yeah, maybe we should define it. But what I've heard about it is, the way I've heard about it was like, oh, this person, like my grandma, my grandma in my family, everybody's like, oh, she had such willpower, meaning that if ever something was tough, or she still, she still went through it, she still did whatever she was supposed to do, and nothing stopped her. And so I guess it's talked about strength, talked about maybe character at the same time. And I admired my grandma a lot, but not necessarily for that, because then when I grew up and became an adult, for me, I mean, the way I understood willpower, I thought it was not very good for me, because it's like, I was also a dancer, and I was doing ballet, and in ballet what you do is, if it hurts, well, you just keep going, you go beyond the pain. And so it was like, the way I was raised was always like, don't listen to your body, don't listen to your intuition, just keep going, and so it was this culture maybe of just never listening to yourself and just going beyond pain, and it really didn't serve me, really didn't. And so I had to go completely the other way at some point, and my family really didn't get it, but they could see I was in pain, and so I had to find a way to heal, and they saw that I managed to heal myself. But it doesn't mean that they would follow my way. They still, they still have that culture of willpower. So, I'm sure it's just one way of looking at it, and maybe it's in the definition of it. But that's my experience with it.
Well, that's good. I like that. I like what you're saying there. It ties in very neatly to what I want to talk about. And so willpower, you said, well, let's define it. So let's just look for what's the typical definition of willpower. The faculty by which a person decides on and initiates action, right? So the faculty by which a person decides or initiates action. And I like what you're talking about, because part of what comes out in this talk by Kelly McGonigal, and even in the talks that I give about, I give these talks about our future selves. And
right.
What within you, there's two versions of yourself. There's this now version of yourself, your present moment self, and then there is who you can become, who you will yourself to become. And so you're always battling, you're always sort of debating or dealing with these two aspects of yourself. One story that I feel exemplifies this is, I believe it's a story of Odysseus, and he's sailing on this adventure, and they're sailing past this area where there are sirens in the ocean, these sort of mermaid creatures that call out to sailors, call out to the men, and lead them to their doom. The song they sing is so irresistible that the sailors turn their ships and sail into the rocks and crash and die. Mm-hmm. Now, Odysseus needs to get by with his people, and he realizes this problem. So what he asks his team to do is to tie him to the mast of the ship. He's the captain. Wherever the captain says to go, that's where they go. They tie him to the mast of the ship, and he tells them, no matter what happens, no matter what I say, do not turn the ship and go towards the boats. I think everybody else put stoppers in the ears. I can't remember exactly the story now that it's slipped in my mind, but he's tied to the mast, and he's told, don't listen to anything I say. And then, because he realizes that there's two versions of himself. There's this version of him now who is going to be enticed by the song, but there's also this future version of himself who wants to get to his destination. And he knows that what he really wants is to get to his destination, so he has to deny this now self. That's sort of what you're talking about. When you use your willpower to deny your present self, but you want to be your present self, that's where your future self is no longer helping you. But if you know what you're experiencing now is not what you want, and what you want is in the future, then you want to use your willpower to get that done. And part of doing that is understanding who you are and what your desires are. And when you realize who you are and what your desires are, or in order to do that, you have to pay attention as much to the pleasure that you receive from things as you do from the pain that you receive from things.
Mm-hmm.
So there's some people like you, Valerie, who would have been in your situation where the pain, when they realized the pain that they were going through, they would not be discouraged by that. They would realize, yes, I want to be this type of person who plays through the pain in this situation specifically. But there are other people who will say, well, I can see this challenge here, and I can see where it might lead me, but I don't choose that. I don't want that. And so part of willpower is understanding who you are so that you can make the decision whether you're going to agree with the now person or the future person.
Okay.
If you want to, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, it's fine. Yeah, I'm agreeing with you. I can see what you're, yeah.
That's right. So if you want to, so I tell the story, Malcolm Gladwell, he, as a kid, he loved to run. He had this friend who he ran with. His friend became a famous runner, and they were running one day, and they got to this very steep hill, and his friend said, let's run up this mountain backwards. Let's run up this hill backwards. And that's where Malcolm Gladwell realized, I can't be a runner because I don't have the desire to do this. And I wouldn't consider that as a failure on his part. I would consider that as a success of realizing who you were. The challenge itself causes you to ask yourself the question, well, who am I really? Who do I choose to be? Who will I be? Who am I willing myself to be? And so when you're using willpower to initiate action, I don't want people to be mindlessly eliciting action from themselves just because society operates in a certain way. At the same time, I don't want them to be so present-focused that they're unable to move beyond their present moment into some future situation because of the challenges that they might face. And that's a personal decision between you and yourself. You choose where you want to go. I remember sitting, when I was in high school, they sent us to all these careers that we could do. They sent me to a lawyer's office, and I wanted to be a lawyer. And so I sat down in the lawyer's office, and I spent the day with him. And I looked at the wall, and I saw all these books along the wall. I mean, giant volumes of books. And I said, wow, you've read all these things? And he says, not only do you read them, you have to keep rereading them every so often because new stuff gets added. You have to know the case law. You have to know what's changing. If you don't like reading this much, Peter, this job is not for you. And I realized I like the idea of being a lawyer, but I will not be one who has to mandatorily read all this information. It's not fun for me. And so I realized that's not who I wanted to be. Right? Okay. And so what I loved about the talk is that it's sort of like the fear conversation. We had this conversation about fear. Fear is the story that you're telling yourself. Well, that doesn't mean you should get rid of fear. It means you should understand the story. When you understand the story, you can make better decisions. And when you're faced with an obstacle that requires willpower to accomplish, then you're face to face with who would you rather be. And if you're trying to lose weight and you really feel like eating that piece of chocolate cake right now, but you realize the future self, who you really want to be, would not eat this cake, then you have to be willful enough to say, I will deny the siren song that I'm hearing from this chocolate cake, and I'm going to move towards, I'm going to initiate action and move towards my future self. You understand what I mean?
Yeah, I do. So tell me, because you did ask me, how do you, so what would you do to increase willpower?
Okay, so that's a wonderful question. That's perfect. One of the things that like Kelly says, she says a lot of things, so check out the video. It's an hour-long video, but it's definitely worth the watch. You won't feel like it took an hour. Within the first 5 minutes, you'll be hooked. But she says you don't have to do all these things, but there are 4 things you can do. One is sleep. So you want to get as much sleep as possible. Not as much sleep as possible, but more than 7 hours. And to me, that sounds crazy because
yeah, I'm sure it sounds crazy to you.
When you said that, I was like, well, then I'm not going to have willpower. That's just my life from now on because I can't sleep. But she says you don't have to do them all. You can just do the ones that work for you. But so sleep is very important. If you get sleep, it puts you in a state of being that you are more able to resist a now impulse for a future gain. If you're tired, if you're groggy, you're likely not able to resist doing the thing that you feel the impulse to do. So you could be grumpy and tired, and if someone says something to you that was mean or not good or that you didn't like, you can snap at them a lot easier than if you were of sound mind because
you're more vulnerable in a way.
That's right, exactly. Your ability to be willful is diminished because you have a lack of sleep. So getting sleep is important. She was talking to a Google employees, so you can imagine these tech people, they go without sleep. And
Yep.
so the room sort of laughed when she said this thing. That's why she said, don't worry, you don't have to do them all. But sleep is very important. Um, the other thing is not criticizing yourself when you fail at activating your will. So a lot of people feel like, well, if you remind yourself how badly you did, that will give you motivation in order to change in the future. And actually, the opposite is true. When you kick yourself when you're down, when you kick yourself when you're down, you make it more likely that you will repeat that action in the future.
Yeah, absolutely believe that. Yeah.
Yeah. I know this now because of what we've been thinking about. I know you know this, Valerie, but it's strange. Like there are a lot of people who really believe they have to whip themselves in order to remind themselves how bad they were
Yeah.
doing.
Well, I think that's in our. I think it's in our Western culture. I really think it is. I mean, if you talk to the Dalai Lama or anybody in Asia, I don't think it's in their culture to beat themselves up, but we do all the time. It's like, oh, we have to do that. We have to blame ourselves all the time, and this is how we're gonna get to something or somewhere. And when I know now, it's totally the opposite.
That's right. Exactly. And
Changing.
I love you.
Changing.
Say again?
I think it's changing. I really think it is changing. You look at, I mean, the little things, or maybe it's just where my focus is. That could be. But I find what I see on TV or on series or when people make speeches and stuff like that, I think it's not as negative and it's more positive and people are more diplomatic about it. But so I think they're kinder to each other and I think they're kinder to themselves. So I think it is changing. But as I said, maybe it's just my focus. I don't know.
I think it's both. I think it is changing. It is increasing. But only those who are tuned to seeing it will see it. It doesn't matter how many nice words you say to your it doesn't matter how many nice things people are saying. If you're not tuned to hearing that information, it will just bleed right over. You could hear it 100 times a day and it will be gone. You've experienced this when you've tried to give someone a compliment and they just brush you off. They say, oh, you're just being nice, or you're just saying that. When you're actually giving them a compliment, they're just brushing it off because they're used to brushing off the things, compliments. They're used to brushing that off. And so it doesn't matter how much it is in our environment, and it is increasing. It's getting more and more people are realizing that the world responds to an optimistic message. That's part of the reason why I created Happy for a Change. HappyForAChange.com is meant to expound the philosophy that an optimistic message, uplifting, inspiring people is the best way to create change. It's the best way to create personal change on an individual level and social change in your community or worldwide. And so I am seeing more and more of that. Kelly McGonigal is an example of this. I love that she's out there the past few years just sort of preaching this message over and over, sharing this message, this important message that kicking yourself when you're down, making yourself feel miserable, though you may think it's motivating you, just like getting the C on your test might motivate you to get the A next time. It actually doesn't do that. When you, on the flip side, you give your attention to when you do things right, even if it's those small moments, then you actually increase your ability to do it in the future. And that's actually another thing that she had. Small steps, right? You don't want to do, people are looking for the big thing in order to change their thing. I want to do the big thing to change my procrastination, the big thing to change my willpower. But the truth is you want to do the small steps, and you want to pick the right small steps in order to create bigger change in the future. That's why going to sleep a little earlier and waking up feeling better can actually have a huge ripple effect on your day and your week and your month and so on. And so small changes, that's what you're really looking for, not big changes, and small victories. And so the third thing is, really, we talked about this, I won't spend much time on it, really you want to start seeing your future self as real as your present self. And when I heard this, it made me feel all warm and tingly inside, because this is an idea that I came to on my own. We've held meetups where I talked about your future self and interacting with your future self. The example that I used was to write a letter to your future self, but she was saying you can write a letter from your future self to your present moment, saying how well you did, how good you did, and send it and give it to your present self. But whatever it is that you're doing, you want to start interacting with your future self or thinking of your future self as though they're a real person. Because if you actually feel it as being real, then you're more likely to do something today that will help you tomorrow. Because you won't feel like you are putting off your satisfaction, your joy. You're going to realize that when your future self is happy, it's the same as if you ate your chocolate cake today. You're gonna evaluate that joy the same as you did. And people who are able to accomplish things, like losing weight, like whatever it is, dealing with their willpower, what they do is that they realize that their future self is as meaningful as their present self. If you've ever known a smoker, maybe you've been a smoker, when you quit smoking, you have to keep reminding yourself that your life will be better when you stop smoking, right? You will be better. And the more that is concretized, the more that is substantial, the more that is real, the more that it's more substantive, then the bigger impact you have over your present moment. So you really want to bring your future self here with you and take it with you with everything that you do to make it real.
And feel it.
And feel it. That's the important part. You have to feel it, because if you're just thinking it, it doesn't really matter. But if you think the thought long enough that it conjures up a feeling within you, then you cement that, you ferment that into your system. You make it more part of who you are. And then now your behavior is naturally changed, right? When you realize you have a problem with procrastination, then you realize, well, what is it that I want to accomplish and how will that affect my life? And then you realize the true sort of satisfaction and joy from, what if I accomplish this? Then that feeling urges you towards motion. It urges you towards action, which we have defined as willpower. And yeah, so I don't know.
We probably, I think we talked about it probably in the meetup about the future self. But I had a friend of mine who had I had talked about you and your twin brother, and she had come up with the idea of like having an alter ego for herself and giving her. Well, I know she came up with the alter ego, I think, and then when we talked together, I said, well, how about you give her all the qualities that you think you lack, you know, and then just use that. And then after what I did is I went through a tough period at my job, and I did that. I was like, you know, I even had a name and for my alter ego, and I said, okay, she's gonna have this, and so she's gonna deal with this situation. She's just gonna, you know, and she's gonna be fabulous at it. And I mean, I've forgotten about her over the months, the first, you know, the last few months now, but she was very useful to me, you know, for a while, because like, okay, super Val, like, you know, it was, and it was fun, but at the same time, I felt big, because I felt connected to her, you know, and so I felt bigger and more powerful, and it was very, very useful. So I think that is a great idea. This is a way of connecting to your future self, you know, or future or not, but an alter ego that is that can be very helpful to you.
That's right. Yeah. The more we, it's why our brains are wired towards personification. The more we, or I believe this, the more we make ideas and concepts and possibilities real in our minds, the more they become real in our experience. And it seems crazy to think, well, you can daydream and do all these things and it will change your life. Forget your daydreaming, forget your imagining your future self, forget all that stuff. Just get to the present moment and start dealing with what's going on. But I remember that kids are born with this just natural tendency to imagine themselves, to pretend, to adorn themselves with fantasy. And I don't see that as meaningless. I don't see that as just the frivolous part of life that people have to grow out of. And when I look at people that I'm inspired by in our present moment, in our present day, who are adults, I see this mind of a child. I see this willingness to imagine themselves beyond what they see in the present moment, and a connection to this future idea that is so tangible that it influences everything they do in this present moment. And then the other thing...
What is real anyway?
Say again?
We've talked about this before. What is real anyway? I mean, the minute you feel it, you're there. So whether it's imagined or not, to me, it has the same value. And because I think, or very close anyway, but because I think it has the same value, it's like, well, now it's like I don't like anything in a way, because I can just imagine it and then just improve on it, and you know, and get more intense feelings out of it, and then that's it. You're there.
That's right. That's right. I actually consider what I imagine to be as valuable, maybe not as real, but as valuable as a present situation, as the experience of it here right now. And I know when I first started adopting that frame of mind, I thought it was kind of crazy, but the more I do it, the more I realize it's really the way I want life to be. And there's so many problems that I see in the world that are tied to this desire for people to to possess objects, to possess things, to possess people, and they have very little desire to possess their thoughts, to possess their imaginings. And there's a lot that I can say about that. And talk about it myself, but this is a really powerful idea. And then just something I forgot to mention in the small steps is that so we talked about when things go wrong, not to kick yourself when you're down. But the other thing she says is to like sit with it for a second, sit with it for a bit, to sit with that painful feeling for a bit. Don't run away from it, because what you're going to learn is that it will pass. The feeling will pass for a moment. Like, it seems overwhelming, but if you sit with it for a bit, you're going to realize these emotions do pass. I don't want to tell you her whole talk, so please check it out, but they do pass. And there's something that I've learned with people when they feel sad. It's like it takes over their whole world, and it's like they forget that they felt like this before, and it went away. You know what I mean? You have this heartbreak, and this lover left you. You feel absolutely devastated, but you felt that way before.
Yeah,
isn't that strange? I find it very strange that people forget.
Yeah, we forget that we always get over it. We I mean, we always get to the other side. But I heard that exactly what you're saying, and really, it wasn't even sitting with it; it was sitting in it. But it was, or that's how I understood it, and it was by Pema Chodron, which is a Buddhist nun, and I did just that. That's what she says. Whenever you're experiencing something negative, instead of trying to run away from it, or instead of trying to find a way to overcome it or whatever, sit with it, And the very first, and I really did that, like literally, I sat in the middle of my living room, and I said, okay, I'm gonna sit in it, and I think I was crying, and I was amazed because it didn't. At first, I was very present to it, and so I kind of welcomed the emotion, and I think it took me maybe 15 minutes, and then it was gone, and I was like, oh my God, like last time I felt like this probably took me a week to get over it. And it took me 15 minutes of just sitting with it, it's very, again, it's non-violent towards yourself. I think it's a smoother transition, and you're not rejecting anything.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. That's a beautiful way of putting it. That's exactly true. I remember the first time I had a heartbreak that was so hard that it was the first time I came face to face with understanding how other people deal with heartache. Until this moment, until I lost this person, or until this person left my life, I didn't realize what the trouble that people went through when they felt this heartache. Because to me, I just sort of dealt with it fairly easily. I just knew the next person, there's going to be another person, I'm going to love them, and it's going to be perfectly fine. But when this person left and I felt this pain in my heart, this irrational pain that went against my logic, I was afraid of the thought, I was afraid of the idea, and I kept avoiding it, and I could sometimes feel it sort of spinning around my head, and I'd feel it coming on and running away from it. And the day I sat down with it, I just let it envelop me and got familiar with it, with the pain, and cried and felt all that sorrow, then it sort of dissipated, and now the thought, even if I feel it coming, I'm not worried about it. Mm-hmm. It reminds me of when I used to go to church as a kid. We used to have these dress clothes. We'd dress a shirt and tie, these hand-me-downs that we had, and sometimes I'd get holes in them, and my mother would be rushing me out to get to church to catch the bus or the car that was going to take us, and she would sometimes have to sew like a button onto us or sew a hole into our clothes. And as a kid, I was very scared about the needle. I was terrified about this needle. I'm going to get hurt. I'm going to get hurt. I'm going to get hurt with the needle. And she'd sew things on me, and finally she said, you don't have to be afraid, and she just stuck me with the needle. Every time she'd just quickly, without asking me, just stick me with the needle real quick. And it would hurt, and then I'd realize, oh, it wasn't that bad.
Yeah, it's not as bad as what you imagined.
That's right. What you imagine can be so much worse. It's actually not that bad. And it sort of softened the fear, the pain that I felt with being worried about that. And you realize so much about what's going on is about how you're choosing to frame it, how you're choosing to interpret it. So much of the pain comes out of how you're choosing to interpret it. I sat down with this pain in my heart and I said, so what? Everybody feels this way at some point in their life. You lose this lover, you don't have them in your life, you feel sad and alone. That's perfectly fine. It's okay to feel this way. Cry, it's okay. And then when you are your own best friend in that way, then you unleash, you sort of dissolve it. And what I really mean is that you integrate it, right? I don't want to give people the impression that you get rid of things that bother you, get rid of things that give you heartache. What happens is that you become familiar with it to the point where it now guides your behavior. I bet you when a figure skater or a skier or snowboarder falls and breaks their leg, they remember that experience, and it makes them more cautious for the future and more able to fall properly or to do whatever it is that you want to do.
Yeah, you creative, I think. you use your creativity to find a way around it, or to get better or whatever. But you were saying last week, actually, you find a way to transform it.
That's right.
Transform the experience.
That's right. Transformation, to me, transformation and integration is the best way to deal with negative emotions. Not to try to avoid them or get rid of them or diminish them, but to embody them so that they balance you out. And I really think there's value there. Look, I'm just going to say the one last thing here, and this was the one that sort of was new to me, and it sort of flipped the script for me. Valerie, do you believe that, and this is a leading question, so do you believe that imagining yourself in the future failing at something, will that increase your willpower or decrease it?
Wow, that's a good one. I think it would increase it. I don't know. I mean, the feeling I have right now is like, I want to go to bat for this future self. It's like, I want to be there for her. There's got to be a way to, I don't know. That's what I get out of it.
Well, that's good, because I know I felt a little confused when she asked the question. Even everything I teach, I felt like, no, you don't want to sit down and imagine a terrible outcome in the future. You don't want to do that. That doesn't seem good. But at the same time, in my own personal heart, I realized, well, I do that. I do that all the time. I imagine myself failing, and then I deal with it and say, how did I fail? And then I deal with it in my present moments. I say, oh, I didn't know what I was talking about. I was too unprepared, blah, blah, blah. And then now I get prepared. And that's exactly what she was saying. She's saying, in fact, it's a little tricky the way I'm saying this, but in fact, you don't want to be thinking about your future as all rosy all the time. You want to think of a mix of the two, things working out and things failing. And when things fail in your imagination, when you imagine that, then you, in your present moment, take steps in order to repair that, and will cause you to be more willful about the future. It's like what you're saying. You feel now, I'm going to go to bat for her. I'm going to take care of her. I'm going to do better today so that she's better tomorrow.
Yeah, or again, you get creative and find a solution, and at the same time, you de-dramatize the whole situation by getting prepared. It's like, wait, it's not a big deal if it happens. So that's one of the options, and we have other options, and let's see if we can get prepared for all of them. And then, and again, we've talked about this before. It depends on your expectations. So if you're ready, if you don't have a specific expectation, then you're more open-minded to all of the other options, and you're probably going to deal with anything in a better way.
That's right. That's right. You don't want to imagine your future self failing just for the sake of imagining your future self failing. You want to imagine it with the expectation that you can then do something about it. So you're absolutely right. Expectation is really, very important. And she wasn't telling people. When I heard this, imagine yourself failing in the future, I felt it went counter to most of what law of attraction teachers teach about, most of what personal power teach about. It didn't go counter to my own personal beliefs, because even before I learned about the law of attraction, I used to sit down in my house and just imagine the worst things. I would also imagine the best things possible. I try to find the best idea, the best thoughts, the most high-flying feelings, but I also went to the dark side and discovered those things, and I got a lot of joy and satisfaction from it. And when I learned about the law of attraction, I learned, well, was I really hurting myself by doing that? And it turns out, with the right attitude, with the right perspective, imagining a failure in the future is actually supremely valuable. And
yeah, I like that. I wouldn't have thought that way, but I like it, and it's a good point. It's going to make me think differently, and I think it gives space. It gives I don't know. Yeah, it creates space, and I think that it makes it okay for us to face anything.
That's right. That's a wonderful way of putting it. It does create space. I couldn't say it better myself. Look, we'll end the topic on willpower there. I really appreciate you coming on, Valerie.
Always a pleasure.
Yeah, I hope you had fun talking about the willpower. It was a lot of fun for me researching it and talking about it here with you. I'm just going to tell you a few things before I let you guys go. Well, hang on. What should the word be for next week? Which one did you like? I was thinking inspiration for the joke.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll do inspiration. And what do you think the topic should be? So I was thinking about the future self, but it might be too similar to today. What would you like to talk about next week? If you don't have an idea, you don't have an idea. You can come up with it later.
Big blank right now.
Yeah, no worries. Okay, so look, if you're watching this and you have an idea of something you want to talk about next week, please feel free to submit your idea anywhere you can find us. Facebook, Meetup, thelawobstruction.ca, happyforachange.com. Below this video on YouTube, below this video on Google+, on our Facebook page, you can find all that stuff out. We're really looking for wonderful topics. I'm looking for things that you might want to know about. The topics that we've had in the recent past have been suggested to us, and it's really made the show a lot better, I think. I want to tell you very quickly about a great idea, something you want to check out. One of the first points we talked about that Kelly talks about, Kelly McGonigal talks about in her talk, is getting sleep. And part of getting sleep is waking up well. And there are a lot of people, I was included in this bunch, who woke up to a buzzing alarm, you know, and that type of waking up is actually, I think, fairly harmful. And so there's all these things out there that help you sleep and that help you wake up. One of the things I want you to check out, if you have a smartphone, app, iPhone, anything like that, check out an app called Sleep Genius. Sleep Genius. It's a free app. And what it does is that there's a lot of features to it. It tracks your sleep cycles, but the biggest benefit it provides is that it wakes you up gradually. It can detect when you reach a certain sleep state. I think it's REM or something after REM. And when you're most able to wake up refreshed, the state of being where you wake up refreshed, and it tracks your sleeping behaviors, right? You put the phone on the bed, and it actually senses your movement because you move during your sleep. And then when you're reaching that point, it slowly plays a song for 5 minutes. It starts up very, very quietly, birds and nature sounds, and it slowly rises to a music that wakes you up over a period of 5 minutes. And waking up like that, just personally, having used it for a few years now, it's a wonderful way to wake up. You wake up to these sort of chirping noises in the background and sort of calming noises, and then music starts, and you feel this gradual rise to awakening at the perfect time, and you wake up feeling very refreshed. So sleepgenius.com. The app is called Sleep Genius. It's free in the iOS store, and I think it's also available for Android, so you want to check that out.
That sounds wonderful. Love it.
Yeah, it's really cool. I mean, I love apps, so there we go. So we have an upcoming event, May 21st. That's tomorrow. Is that 21st or 22nd? May 22nd, let me correct that. Tomorrow, Developing Good Character with Lee Weischer. That's going to be downtown at the Weebic Center. May 25th, Spring into Attraction, our first outdoor event on Mount Royal. If you're in the Montreal area, you definitely want to check that out. May 31st, we have Samantha Barley's holding Appreciation Walk. First Appreciation Walk for our group. So go into Mount Royal, have a nice walk with somebody who's very positively oriented that can really uplift you. Definitely want to check that out. June 7th, we're having a social potluck picnic at Beaver Lake. So again, if you're in the Montreal area, you want to get together with people, enjoy some food, enjoy some good time. June 7th is the day to do that. And of course, the Appreciationist next Wednesday at 7 p.m. You can find all this information on a meetup page at meetup.com/TLOAMTL. Find us on lawattraction.ca, happyforachange.com. On YouTube, on Google+, we want to hear from you, and I hope you enjoyed the show. I want to thank you one more time for participating with us, and I hope I see you again next week at 7 p.m. Take care, Valerie. Take care.
Okay, bye.
Ciao. Hey, maybe I should save my upcoming events and all that stuff for afterwards, you know? In this moment right here. But we're having a lot happening, especially during the summer. You definitely want to get involved. Meetup.com/TLOAMTL is really the place to go to find out everything that we're doing. We're really trying to get the message out there, positivity, optimism, get people out there, give you a reason to feel joy, giving you a reason to feel appreciation. And then you can come here next week, 7 p.m., 6:45, if you want to join us on camera and talk about it with us. Is there anything left to say except I want to thank Valerie very much for participating with us, with me. It's really fun to have you there. I know you're gone now, but thank you, thank you, thank you. I love you so much for coming out. You always have wonderful things to say. Such great vocabulary, too. Opening up the space, giving you space. I'm going to have to steal that from you. I hope you don't mind. Thank you very much. Have a good night. My name is Peter, and you've been watching The Appreciationist. Take care.